As you all know, my name is Emmanuel Coyote Oladipo, and in this tutorial we're going to start the implementation of a simple calculator. In our previous tutorial I brainstormed briefly on how to design a calculator and the software basically that we're going to use. But before we can start, there are a couple of things I just need to make us aware of. Like I said, we'll be using Python, and to be specific, we're going to be using object-oriented programming. Now, if you do not have Python installed on your computer, simply go on Google and type python.org. It's going to take you straight to the download page. The software is an open source software. You can download it. You have nothing to pay for it, and you need to install it immediately after downloading it. There are different versions of Python. I believe the latest version I think will be the best for you, and that should be 3.8 or higher. And secondly, before downloading the software, please ensure you download the right version for your PC or your system. For instance, we have the 62-bit, and then we also have the 32-bit version of Python. If you do not know what the specification for your PC is, you simply just go on PC and check for your system configuration. And to do that, if you go on PC, right click on PC right here and click on Properties. And within this environment, you should go straight to System Type, and it will tell you the version of your operating system. For instance, mine is 64-bit, so the Python install that I installed on this PC was 64-bit Python. So yours, I don't know what that is gonna be. So you just make sure you check and ensure you download the appropriate version for your PC. Okay, so after the installation, like I said, you briefly have to follow your plan. This is the plan I showed us initially. We're all familiar with the Cartesian coordinate when plotting a graph. The Cartesian coordinate, normally we have the x-axis and the y-axis, and then the two axes normally are serially numbered. You can start from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Okay. Now, you also need to decide how many buttons you want on your calculator. For instance, if I want 13 buttons, I'll probably want to arrange them by having 3 columns and 4 rows, so that I will have 12 buttons there, and the last button goes to the last. Okay. For instance, if I scroll down right here, you will see what I mean. If I have, let's say, if I want to arrange 13 buttons, I can have 3 columns and 5 rows. But the 5th row normally will contain maybe the equal symbol button. And as you can see, the last button span through 3 columns as well. Okay, but if I have 3 columns, then obviously I'm just gonna have 5 rows. Okay, with the last row having the last button spanning the 3 columns. So you have to plan how you're going to do it. Alternatively, you may want to use 4 columns, in which case I will end up having 4 rows here, such that the 4th row we have the last button spanning the 4 columns there. Another thing I also want to talk about here, as you can see, the screen, like I said, is a text box, and the screen spans the 3 columns here. So what we're going to implement, therefore, we will implement a 13 button calculator that will have a total of 13 buttons on it. And the way I'm going to arrange those buttons are as shown. 3 columns, 5 rows. The 5th row to contain only 1 button spanning the 3 columns. That is the way I have designed it. I also want my screen to span the 3 columns as well. Now everything will be contained within the interface, the container. Okay, so this is exactly what we're going to implement. Now, to implement this is quite easy. And what are we going to do? You simply just type Python here and locate where you have the idle. If you do not have it right here, you can go on your Windows icon and locate where the idle is there. But I prefer typing it right here. Okay, so double click that, and that should take you straight to the interpreter environment. The interpreter environment interpret whatever line of code you type in there line by line. For instance, if I type 3 plus 5, this basic, if I press the return key, it should tell me the answer is 8. Or if I type 3 times 5 and press the return key, this should tell me the answer is 15. Now this environment, basically I always call it an interpreter environment, because as you can see, each line of code you type is interpreted at once, you know. But if you really want to write a collection of lines of codes and then compile everything, you probably will need the compiler environment. And to load the compiler environment, you need to click on File and click on New. It should take you to a blank working environment like that. Now you can configure this to your taste. Configuring it means making it nice and suitable for what you want to do. For instance, if I want to configure this now, I can simply just click on Options and then go on Configure idle, and I can choose suitable font faces or font styles I need. I can choose suitable font sizes. Let's choose 14 there, and make it bold by putting a tick in the checkbox there, and go down there and click on the Apply button and then click OK. Okay, so before implementing a calculator, remember a calculator we're going to implement is a graphical user interface kind of calculator. Is GUI. It uses GUI containing buttons and clickable materials. And for this reason, we're going to import the tkinter. The tkinter contains all the packages and all the accessories, and of course the clickable materials and controls that we will need. So to import tkinter, simply type from tkinter import star. Importing star will import all the functionalities, the interface and all the controls that you will need. What do I mean by controls? I mean the buttons, text boxes, and all other accessories that you will need on the calculator. Okay, now eventually we're going to do some mathematics, you know, maybe multiplying numbers, dividing numbers, and you know, doing all manners of calculation on it. And therefore, for this reason, we need to import the mathematics functionality or package as well. So you click from math. Please note I'm typing math, not mass here. I'll type import star. Okay, and so to start, we've got to create a class. You know, the calculator, we're going to create a class of GUI. Okay, so I'll type class. You can give your class a name. For instance, I'm going to call this my calculator. Okay, and then press the colon key right there. The next thing I'm going to do now is to create the init method. The init method basically initializes all of the variables we're going to need, the attributes we will need there. So I will to define my my method, type div and then double underscore init, double underscore, open the bracket and type self, comma, w, and press colon. Each time you create a method like this, you got to end it with a colon. The same way, whenever you create a class, the line must be ended with a colon. so you must get used to the punctuations. Okay, so the self there, basically each time you create a method within OOP, ideally you want to provide a variable. It may not necessarily be self, but I'm using self here, and the self can be used to retrieve, it can maybe used to call any method, basically, to work. You can use it to call any method. You can as well use it to refer to a variable, to call any variable, make use of it. Okay, the W basically we stand for the window. So we need to initialize this. So I'm going to type self W equal W. And the next thing we're going to do is to create the screen. We can call it screen. Okay, but remember what I said, the screen is going to be a text box. I'm just going to go over it again so that you see what I mean. That is the screen, and as you can see, this is a text box. So we set the width as well as the height, and then we color it just like that. Okay, so I'm going to type self dot screen equal text, and remember what I said, we want this text box to be inside the window, to be inside the container. So we're going to type W there, and then type comma, and we're going to disable it so that nobody will be able to type anything in there for at the moment. Though it's not compulsory to disable it, but I'm just going to do that. And we need to set the width. Let's make the width 25. We need to set the height to, let's say, 3. We need to give it a BG. For the BG, you may type any color of your choice. Alternatively, you can use HTML color code, which you can find online. So if you go on Google search engine and type HTML color code and press enter, you see the color chart there. Click on it. It should take you to the color scheme. For instance, if we want to color the background of the screen, that is the text box, let's color it green like that. Click on it here and copy the hex code and use it here. Although if you leave it as green, it will work as well, but ideally it's better to use code all through. And we also want to set the border BD. Let's make the border 5. Okay, so we're done with that, with creating the screen. Now after creating the screen, nothing will happen until the screen is positioned inside the interface, inside the container. So we just want to position it. Let me show you. We want to position it right inside this container, that rectangle there. We want to put this inside it. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I will type self dot screen dot grid, and then where do we want to position it? We want to position it at the start. Look at it at the beginning. So if you look at my grid here, we want to position it at the beginning, column 0, row 0. Okay, column 0, row 0. So I put row equals 0, column equals 0, and we want it to cut across, we want all of the columns to be merged so that it spreads across 3 columns. We want it to spread across 3. I'm going to use 3 columns like I said. So we want it to spread across 3 columns here, as you can see. So I will go back there and type column span equal 3, and then I'll close the bracket. Now, because I've disabled the text box so nobody can type anything inside it, what I have to do right now is I have to configure the screen. Such that the state is now normal so that somebody can type something inside it. Okay, so we're done with that. But currently, if I run this, you probably won't see anything. So we need to make a function call to the main. Making a function call to the main runs the program so that you can see the results of your programming. So to see what I have done here, I will basically create an instance of the window. Okay, so I will type window equal tk. Okay, and I'll create an instance of the window, my win equal, I will create an instance of the class now. So, and the parameter is window because we're creating the window now. So, and having done that, I want to set the title. I can set the title to whatever I want. I can type window.title, and I probably will want to put this as simple calculator. Simple calculator, and I will make a function call to run this program. So to run this program, I'm going to type window.main loop. Window.main loop, just like that. So that's all for the screen. Okay, I don't think I have to go through this, but please let's remember that line of code there create the screen, that is the text box. That line of code position the screen inside the interface. This makes it possible for us to type something inside the text box, because remember the text box was disabled, so there's no way anybody can type anything in it. Now you have to create an instance of the window here. That's an instance of the window, and the title, this creates the title, and this basically make a function call. It calls the method to run. Okay, so right now we're going to check what we have done. So let's click on run and save this first. Probably may want to save it somewhere you can find it. Let me just call it simple calculator. Okay, so this is what we have, and this is beautiful. So this is the screen, the text box. As you can see, the border looks beautiful. If you want to see the remainder, you can just extend it like that. So this is where we're going to be tiling all the buttons. We're going to tile all the buttons from here, and we want 3 buttons per row, so that if we have 4 rows, that will be 12 buttons, and then the 13th buttons will come last. This is basically what we're going to do next. And to do this, we're going to normally, because we're going to be looping through it, it really makes sense, to use a counter. So I will type count equals 0, and having done that, we will create an instance of the button. Although normally it is important to create the method that we actually create the button. The method is expected to create the button, and then we can call that method to come and create the button for us. The same way you create a function in Python, in procedural Python. Okay, but please remember this is object-oriented programming in Python. So you can put B1 as your variable for button 1. Alternatively, you can put B0. It is up to you to decide. If you don't want to use B, you can put BTN or whatever. Okay, but I'll just prefer to use BO. And I will type self. Remember I said self is basically used to call a function, and that is why we've included it in the initialization as one of our parameters. So I will type self dot btn create. You may call it create btn, it's up to you. And we want the text on this to be 0. Okay, although currently we have not created this method, but we will create this method below, because what we are doing here, we're simply making a function call. We're calling that method, we're calling that function, but we have not created it yet. So but by the time we create it, the button will appear and 0 will appear on that button. Okay, so that's exactly what I'm trying to do here. The next thing I'm going to do is I will type B1 and change the text on it to 1. B2, change the text on it to 2. B3, change the text on it to 3. B4, change the text on it to 4. B5, change the text on it to 5. B6, change the text on it to 6 on that button. And then button 7, and then change the text on it to 7. Button 8, change the text on it to 8. Button 9, change the text on it to 9. Button 10, change the text on it to 10. But for button 10, we want button 10, the text on it, we want it to be equal sign. So you can change that to equal sign. And because this is going to be equal sign, we want the last button to extend. We want this to extend through 3 columns. We want it to, to spread across 3 columns. So what I'm going to do there is I will type, we do not want this equal sign to appear when it is pressed. So we type none, and we will type want it to spread across by 30. Okay, so having done that, the next thing we're going to do right now is we're going to create a list. If you've ever done programming before, whenever you create a list, you can loop through the list to arrange them in whatever column, in whatever form you want it. You can have 3 by 2, 3 by 4, you can arrange all those buttons the way you want by looping through and then using the counter. So I will create my list. Please note that this is just a variable here. You can use any variable of your choice. For instance, you may call it my button. It's up to you. Okay, so I will arrange all of those buttons inside them like that. Oh, actually, I still have one more button there. Because normally they should be 13. So I probably will type B10. Let's make this 10. B12. Okay. No, B11, sorry. So this will be 11 right there. Now the last one is B12, which is the one we expect to span across the 3 columns. Okay, so I'll have to arrange them now in a list, so I can loop through them one by one. B2, B3, B4, B5, B6, B7, B8, B9, B10, B11, and B12, and that's it. So there are 12 buttons there. So we have B0, B1, B2, B3, B4, B5, B6, B7, B8, B9, B10, B11, B12. So there are 12 buttons there. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do now is to loop through all of them. Now, when looping through them, there are a couple of things I want to explain here. Please note that the row starts from row 1. The buttons, the first button will go straight into row 1, column 0. As you can see, row 1, column 0. Okay, the reason is because this is not going to go into row 1 and row 0, because row 0 already has been taken up by the screen. This is row 0, so we're going to start from row 1. Okay, but this is column 0 still. Okay, so I will loop through it by typing. I'm gonna type for row in range. Remember, we're going to start from row 1, and we want it to loop through to row 4. Remember the 5th row, because there are 13 buttons basically. So the 5th button goes into row 5. Okay, so each time one uses an iteration of this kind, you just have to end it using a colon and press the return key. For column in range, there are 3 columns we want there, and then colon. So what we want to do right now is we want to arrange all these buttons here in the interface, in those rows and columns. So to do that, I will type btn and open up a bracket there and type count dot range, dot grid, because we are arranging them in grid actually, and then we're gonna type row equal row, column equal column, just like that. Okay, so that basically will arrange the first 12, B0 to B11. Is going to arrange all of the buttons, these ones, inside the interface, but that requires that we type count equal count plus 1. Please note, instead of writing count equal count plus 1, you can as well write count plus, count equal plus 1. You can type it this way, like this. Okay, just to show you. Okay, now the last button, basically we go inside, we go straight to the 5th row. Okay, so for this reason we're gonna type btn, because it's the last button, which is button number 12. So I'll type 12 there. Okay, and I'll type dot grid, and then I will type row equal 5 and column equal 0, because as a matter of fact it's column 0. Okay, and then we want it to span 3 columns. I'm talking of, basically what I'm trying to say here is that the last button, I basically want it to start from row 5, column 0, and then we want it to extend through those 3 columns. Okay, and we can set the width. Already we've set the width to 30. Okay, so we've done that, but currently if I run this program right now, nothing will happen. The reason is because we were making a function call on btn create. The btn create is a function or a method. We have not created that yet. The btn create, basically we create the button itself. Okay, so we have to create that before anything, for anything at all to happen. So I will create the method or the function to create that button. So I will copy that name, the name of the button there, and paste it there. And because this is a function, like I always say, you've got to write self there, because self, we will be using self. Remember, we were using that self to retrieve the btn here, so it has to be included as one of the parameters. So I'm going to be typing val, and I'm going to be typing write. We want to set the write to true so that it will be possible to write something inside it. And I'm going to set the width to, let's say, 7. It doesn't have to be 7. You can put whatever you want there. And if you have ever created a function before, you understand that whenever you create a function, you define a function like this, or whenever you define a method like this, you must end it with a colon, and then the next line must be indented. It does it automatically, but if peradventure you click on the first line, you can press the tab key to create the indentation. So I will type return. I want it to return the button. Button is a keyword, is a reserved word, so to speak. It's similar to the text. Remember, when we wanted to create a text, this is what we did. So we want to do the same thing for the button as well, to create the button. So we type button, and I will use self. I'll call the interface because we want it to be positioned inside the window of the interface. So you will type self.w, comma, width equal width. Okay, and the text equal val, the value there, and we can put some padding. Basically, let's put pad x, and I'm just simply gonna type let's put this as 5, and then pad y, let's put that as 5. For the button, what else do we need to set for the button? You can change the text on the button. Let's make the text on the button green. Okay, let's make it green. FG equal, FG means foreground, which is the button, and which is the color of the text. So FG the font color, what do we want for that? Let me see. Let me go online and see what we can put there. Let's put red. Okay, and then copy that. I'm just gonna paste that there and simply close that bracket. Okay, so we're done now. If we run this now, we should see all of those buttons tile up there appropriately, the way they should be tiled up. Okay, so I'm going to run this. I will run this so that you see exactly what I mean. Excellent. So this is what we have. As you can see, the equal sign spans the 3 columns. You can see I have 3 columns and I have 4 rows. Okay, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It looks like some of the buttons are missing. So let's check out and see which of the buttons are missing. This is from row 1 to row 4. Row 1 to row 4. And so okay, if I make this row 1 to row 5, by the way, if I count, let me count 1 2 3 4 5, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13. So what happened here is that there are some buttons missing here. So what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to put this as 5 and then change the row to row 6. Yeah, let's see what's going to happen. If it doesn't bring them out, excellent. So everything is complete, as you can see now. 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, so we have okay, yeah, because we actually started from row 0, and that was why I missed out some of the buttons there. So this is beautiful and perfect, but currently they do not work. We still have to write some program to do that, and we'll do that in the next tutorial. So as you can see, this is quite good and fabulous. Okay, I can go through the code if you don't mind. So the list here allows us to loop through it and arrange them in the grid, as you can see. And this is the last button. Basically, this is the create button method. This method here, this function here, actually created the button, and then we call in the create method to create the button for us and put 1 on it here. This is why we're instantiating it here. Okay, we're instantiating it here so that all those letters here, we can arrange them and then use those instances in the arrangement, because with those instances it should be possible for us to loop through and arrange them rather than writing the whole thing. So this is why we have to assign each of those functions to a variable, so it is easy to loop through here rather than having to write each of them. So we've assigned them. For instance, self.btn create 1 has been assigned to b1, so it's inside b1. So we loop through it and arrange them in the grid. So that's all I have to teach you today. Please, if you have any question on how to create this, you should please let me know by popping an email in my inbox, emmanuelkayode@hotmail.co.uk. Alternatively, you can text me via the Facebook. So next lesson, please do not miss the next lesson. We're going to be programming these buttons to work. Thank you, and we meet again. Okay.